Alright, so we're gonna try to recreate this part uh, starting from the sketches. And so I'll go through the steps I did on this part. So let's first have a review of the interface. So basically, on the left side we have all the entities in this model. So we have the bodies, then we have the sketches, and the actual the modeling step is at the bottom of this window. So we have this bar you can drag around, and then this is like a timeline feature, and it'll go through different steps of the modeling, so you can pretty much see the whole process. And so it started with a pretty basic extrude. Then we did another extrude cut. Where's my cube? So here. So the second one is a extrude down cuts. The third one is the milling slot. Then we got another slot. Then that's for this little ramp here. That's a side extrusion. Then we got the 3 holes, some chamfer. I'm sorry, the fillets. Then we got 2 holes. So then that's the basic overview of this modeling process. And so we got a lot of little tricks on the sketch. So interesting. So basically we're gonna start a sketch first. And I'll just pick this plane. It should be the top plane. Right. So if we look at this sketch here, right click and show dimension, show it, and trying to find out like this view cube. Right, so on this sketch, the only trick thing is this dimension here. So let's get started. So I put the midpoint of this rectangle at the origin, so this whole thing can be fixed to the origin. And we could just start from this. And as you can see, our units is still millimeter. So I'll expand this and click this icon here, change unit to inch, and I'm gonna, maybe we can set that to default, so everything from now on will be inch. Okay, then I would put the dimensions in 3.016 and 1.5. So we got the dimension tool here. 3.016. Yeah, enter. And then this is 1.5. Enter. I'm gonna hit escape. So as you can see, the rectangle is not really fixed. I would do a midpoint constraint. Now select this line, then select the point. So it seems, let me control Z. It seems it doesn't like me picking a line first. It works. Okay. Maybe I had something else selected before. So midpoint, then pick the line, pick the origin point. And now you can see the color of the lines are solid black. And before, when I didn't have the constraint, these lines are bluish, so they're like we call that not constrained or not fully constrained. So anytime you do CAD, you would want to fully constrain your sketch, so in the future you come back and drag something, it doesn't change the sketch that easily. So I'll put in the midpoint constraint here. Then for the arc, we'll just go to, it's a hidden on the create and arc, 3-point arc. Hit the start, hit the end, then you can drag anywhere in the between. And so to add this dimension, it's 2.988. Again, we start the sketch dimension tool. Then if you right click anywhere, you can see by default it'll pick the arc center. So if I click on this arc, it'll pick at that point, actually, not the arc. So I have a dimension I measure is from the arc to this the right side of the rectangle. So I would definitely want to pick the arc instead of center. So I'll just change the setting to pick the arc tangent. Right, then we'll pick on the arc itself and select this line. Drop it here, 2.988. Okay. One more thing is, right now this rectangle line on the left side is still a solid line. So if I'm going to extrude, it'll probably confuse with this shape and also this little bit area here. There's a potential it'll extrude this part as well. Now you can control that in extrude, and you can say I just want to extrude this part. Or there's another way is you can convert this line into a construction line, so it doesn't get involved in creating solid. So if you do right click on this line, let's see, nominal or construction. So it'll switch between nominal or normal or construction. So I think I accidentally added a constraint there. Oh, that's good. So I'll pick this line, right click, and change to construction. Now you can see that's a dashed line, and when I click it, there's nothing there. There's no enclosed area, so it will not get extruded. Now that's the base shape. It's good. And then we will finish the sketch. Let me check the distance to extrude. So the distance to extrude here is 925. So we'll do a 0.925, 0.925. Hit enter. So that's the first step. Then the second extrude, I did a sketch on the top plane, then extrude downwards. So I have this plane selected. Then I would create a sketch, and I need to take a look at the dimension here. show dimension. Okay, so this is a very common rectangle, 2.75, and the width is the same at the bottom. So rectangle, and I'm gonna snap to this corner point and snap anywhere. Now dimension this line to the right side. What was the number? 2.75. Now this one dimension is enough to fully constrain this rectangle, and that's one of the reasons is because we have this corner point snapped to the previous solid, and also this round dot indicating this dot is also stays on this line, so the width of the rectangle is already fixed. We don't need a dimension for that, and that'll be enough, and we'll finish the sketch and check how much we need to extrude. Let's see. So that was a downwards. 0.625. So we'll try extrude, and I'll pick this area here. As you can see, you can actually pick different area. So I just need to extrude this piece on a different direction. So 0.625, and let's try a minus. Oh, okay. So what happened here is when I measured this piece, I measured from this top plane to the bottom plane. So it's not cutting that. It's a 7/8. It is. It's 7/8 from the bottom plane. So I wasn't gonna do a subtract the total height minus 7/8. So there's a way we can just say we want this extrude 7/8 to the bottom plane. So it is a little bit different extrude. So we need to change a little bit options here. We would start is this plane, and extend is not a distance, so we're not gonna extrude a fixed distance. Instead, we're gonna extrude to a point that is 7/8 to the bottom plane. So from the icon, you can tell it's kind of look like this, to object. So let's give it a try. To what object? Right, so we're gonna extrude it to the bottom plane, but not all the way to the bottom plane. So that's why we can set up a offset. So not exactly all the way to bottom plane, but 7/8 to the bottom plane. So basically we extrude from the top, and we want extrude to the bottom plane, but not all the way to. So we have an offset value here. We're gonna set to the distance. Alright, then we're gonna say okay. So right now this height here is 7/8 inch. Okay, so the next step is, let's see what we did here. So it's this mill slot, and when I did this model, I was lazy, so I put both slots in one sketch. And that also create a little bit complex later on, because you have a lot of different areas to pick when you want to extrude. We could just to make it easier to read, for other people to read your model, you can I would probably put this bigger profile on the top plane. So here's what I'm gonna do. And also I will separate those two sketches. So trying to figure out. We got this. Okay, so I would start a sketch on the top plane for the bigger profile. So pick the plane and start the sketch. And we have a mill slot. So let's see, we have a rectangle, 2 circles. And also this whole thing should be centered to the origin. I don't think there's a good constraint you can use to put it to origin. So what I would do, an easy way, is just make a construction line. So I would use a line and start from the origin point and stop it anywhere. Escape, and convert that to a construction line. So this construction line, it's not fully constrained. You can see it's so you can see the length, it can still move, but the sketch thinks the color is black, so because it's a constraint construction line, so it doesn't matter. The length doesn't really matter, and this geometry is still blue, so we need to add some constraint, add some dimensions. And to put this whole geometry on the middle of your sketch, you can just drag this point and put it on this line here. It's not really snapping, probably because we have this solid here. So what we can do is we can hide this, so you don't have to see it when you're doing the sketch. Let's click on the eye. And hopefully it'll snap. So it seems like it snapped to the construction line. I guess we can't move it anymore. Alright, then we'll add some dimensions. So 0.74. Actually, I think on this model I have more digits. We'll just go with that. So 0.74 is between these two lines. Then we have the milling distance, so it should be this shorter distance. And I think it might be a manufacturing thing. It's supposed to be the same for the small slot and the big slot. So I would just make it bigger, because I think that's a place to put stuff in, so it doesn't matter if it's bigger a little bit. If it's smaller, it'll be hard to put stuff. So it'll be the distance between the two centers. We'll say 1.9 inch. And you notice I have a fx here, so it's a function or equation here, and it is because I measured using a caliper is from the arc to arc, but when you actually go manufacturing, they probably want to know the center to center distance. So 2.58 is just the measured value. Then I minus D10. D10 is probably this. So let's see if that's D10. Yeah, so this is D10. But here, because I already know the dimension, so I don't have to use equation. If you want to use equation, just type the number, do an equation, then minus some value, you can click it, it'll put it into your equation, then hit enter. Also, sometimes if the graphics doesn't show, you can just zoom in and out. Should be able to show it. So here we'll just decide to go with 1.9 inch, and it's still not fully constrained because we don't have a dimension to constrain this direction. So that's this one, 0.48. And since we're making it bigger, let's see, we're gonna be 0.48. Okay, so 0.48 minus 0.06. So here, from the center to the edge, it's gonna be 0.45. Okay, and this should be enough to make the extrude. The only thing is we do have a lot of different areas. You might have to pick, or you can convert, like before, you can convert these to construction. You can't convert this because the circle is a continuous curve. You can probably do a trim, and that'll sometimes causing problem because it'll delete some constraints. So it says constraint or dimension will be deleted. So once you get used to extrude, you probably don't have to cut those lines. We'll just finish the sketch. And I want to see the body. Yeah. So we'll make the mill cut, extrude. Now when you do extrude, you're gonna have to click a little bit more. So let's see the distance here. So because in this model I extruded a kind of weird way. There's not, because my sketch is at the bottom and my extrusion is actually not from the same plane, not on the bottom plane. It's actually a little bit offset from the sketch itself. As you can see, the sketch is at the bottom, then this big slot is extruded a little bit off, then upwards, but rather on the new model I would use this depth, 0.415. So when you click in a line or an edge, it'll show you the length right here at the bottom. So 415, we can extrude this way. It's a little bit more realistic to how the machine goes. So the machine will touch the top, or they will find a reference from the top plane and go down this distance. So it will be 0.415. Okay. Then we have another slot. we'll just be using the same slot width 1.9 and slot length. So the width is 0.29, and so instead of two different centers, the new model is going to have a concentric. So I will start a sketch right here at the bottom of the slot, and do sketch. So the same thing, we'll make rectangle, two circles, and I need a construction line from the middle. Pick it and convert that to construction. Then, so you don't have to drag to put on the line. What you can do is, we have a coincident. So do a coincident constraint. I think I already have the point selected. So pick the construction line and escape. So this way it's the same as you trying to drag and make the point stay on the construction line. Alright, then we do some, we also need this center to be on this center. So you can do a couple different ways. You can use a coincident. You can pick this corner, pick this dot, and pick this dot, do a coincident. Or I can pick this circle, and I'm going to hold the control and pick this arc. So I have two circles selected. I'm going to do a concentric. So this side is fixed, and we need to constrain this side. So on this side I can do a coincident. So as you can see, this constraint actually changes when you pick different geometries. If I pick a dot, you only have these different options for a point. So I'm going to hold the control key and find the center of this arc. So now I have 2 points selected, and the only available constraints are these, and one of them is concentric. And so that does the same thing as concentric for 2 circles, or coincident for 2 center of the arc. It is the same results. And the width. Yeah, so when you're doing sketch, there's a lot of different ways to dimension it or to constrain it. Whichever way that'll make it's more convenient, or whichever way you are your preference. So once I put down the dimension here, you can see the sketch turns black. All the curves. So this sketch is fully constrained, and we'll finish the sketch. It doesn't have to be all the time, but it's a good habit. So finish the sketch, and we'll be extruding this thinner slot downwards. So extrude, I'll pick a couple of the areas, and so since this goes all the way through, we don't really have to do a distance. You can do a all, so extend is all, and it'll give you error because there's nothing on the top. We'll do two sides, or we'll do a symmetric, then all, so it goes downwards and upwards. So as long as there's something, it'll touch, there's no warning. And so operation is cut, that is correct. We'll say okay. And we still get a warning. So it still doesn't like you to extrude into nothing. Let's see if we can change the direction. Alright, so a flip. Simple. So we'll just click the flip button and make the direction go downwards. And now it's happy. Alright, so these two slots are done. And next is okay, so next is this cut. This cut is, let's take a look at the sketch. So basically we're only cutting this triangle part off, and we'll take a look at the dimensions. Yeah, so I use the caliper, measure this distance, and this is just a guess. In reality I measure the bottom length, then round up to 30 degrees. It was like 29 some degrees. And then when you look at the actual piece, it is matched pretty well at this point to the slot. Okay, so we're gonna make another sketch and make the cut. And this sketch is perpendicular to all the sketches we have done so far, and it is on the front plane. If you look at this cube here, the front plane is right in the middle, perpendicular to every sketch we have done so far. So let's try. So all the named plane are here. Okay, so this we're looking normal to the front plane. I'm not sure if Fusion does this. In some software you can pick a front and create a sketch. So here we still have to select. So basically front is this one, and we can create the sketch. And so to extrude and cut, you have to have a what do you call it? Enclosed geometry. We can't just simply say I want to come here and do a line, and this line sits on this. Use this line to cut. And in some software you can actually do a line, trim the solid, but I haven't found it so far. So we'll just do the very basic way to draw a complete sketch. So since we already have the shape here from the solid, and the only thing is if I try to snap, and this surface is an arc, so it is really not, there's nothing to snap to for this point. Maybe the bottom can snap to the bottom. So I can snap this point to the bottom, but this is probably not doable. Let's see. Alright, still works. Oh, good. So it automatically creates this line is projected from the solid. So this icon is actually projecting a line from the solid into your plane, and what happened is this line is actually not in your sketch. If you look at all the grids here, it's intercepting right in the middle of the solid, So if you want any interaction between this line and the sketch, so the program automatically projects this line into the sketch. But to create a enclosed circle, we still have all the rest of the lines. Or what we can do is you can make something like this and extrude this area as a cut. That's one option. Or we can do this is here. What's the project? Modify. Let's find out. Project and include. So project this shape into your sketch, because this shape right now is outside of the sketch plane. So we'll do a project. We'll pick this plane and say OK. Now you can see all the dots, or you can actually see there's the lines created from this plane, and that projects into the sketch plane. Okay, now we have a enclosed shape. If I hide the solid body, you can see we have a two enclosed area, and then we can extrude, and if we use this, it's gonna be a intersect, and if we use this, it's gonna be a cut extrude. And we're still needing some dimensions, so it will be this point to the top point, 0.625, and this line to this line is 30 degrees. Anytime you have a dimension, if you click two lines that's not parallel, automatically it'll be degrees. If you click two lines that's parallel, it'll be distance. And everything looks constrained. We'll show up the solid body again and finish sketch, extrude. So if we pick this and we want to, instead of cut, we would do intersect, and since this shape is in the middle of the body, we would want to do a symmetric. And as to the distance, it's not that important because it should cover everything, so we'll do a distance is all. So take a look. So it extrudes both ways, and then anything that's intersected will be kept, and anything that's not intercepted, aka or this part, this triangle part, is gonna be dropped. So you can see the difference here is actually just cutting this thing off, or intercepting. We're gonna keep this part. Okay. So you could also use the extrude and use cut for the bottom. Then next is these holes. So show dimension. These holes are a 1/4 inch diameter, and this step is actually 0.2 inch. If I can pick that edge. So let me see. Okay, so if I pick these two edges, so the distance between them is 0.2 inch, and that gives us the distance between the center of these circles, or 0.45. Okay, so I did a sketch on this plane. There's also an option you can do a sketch on the right plane, because these are parallel. Right plane and this plane, they're parallel. You can do a sketch anywhere and extrude and then cut through all. So I guess here we'll just do a different way. We can use the right plane instead of creating on this plane. And we'll do a circle right here. Now, because right now we're drawing a sketch on the right plane, and this top line is not inside the plane, so we probably need to project this line into our plane. If you look this way, and we'll do project. I want to project this. If I project the whole thing, you can see where this gonna land inside our sketch. I actually just need the top line, so I'm good with that. Hit OK, and this should be a construction line. You don't have to convert to construction, but it'll be easier. If it's not a normal line, it wouldn't get extruded. Okay, so still looking through right plane, circle in the middle is 0.25 in diameter. Then we have two circles on the side. You can make two circles, or you can use this symmetric. Once we constrain this circle, you can mirror to the other side, or you can do a mirror inside sketch. So either way is fine. And we can also use a constraint instead of another dimension. So I want equal. I want these two circles to be equal, and that's one constraint. And right now we still need the dimension between the centers. So we know between the arc is 0.2, then plus 2 of the radius, so we'll plus 1 diameter, and hit enter. And on the right side, we can do, if we do mirror, we would need to find a center line. So you need to draw a what do you call it? Draw a construction line again. So let's try it if we can do it. So we can use X, Y, Z to mirror it. I hope. So we're gonna mirror it, this circle, and so you're gonna first pick what you want to mirror, then mirror the line. I have to click here. So now I'm picking up the center line. Center line, if I look at the cube here, the vertical line is y-axis. So that means the center is y-axis. I'll try to pick y. So it does pick that. Then we can use the y-axis. And as you can see, it actually creates another line to project the y-axis. So I guess it's, at the end of the day, it's all the same. You can create a line in the middle. So the sketch is good, and the difference is this sketch is actually on the right plane, and my old model, the sketch is on this little plane. So it doesn't make a difference. We'll go extrude 3 circles. We want through all, flip the direction so it goes that way, and it's a cut. Alright, And the last step would be those two circles. So it's also the same step. We just need to find the dimensions. So before that, we actually have a fillet. This fillet you can do it the last or right now, either way. So we'll see the dimension is 0.08. So we'll do a fillet, pick the edge, pick the other edge, the dimension is 0.08. And you can actually have multiple different ones. So if I pick two more edges, you could have different radius. So if you keep adding new selections, you can finish all the different radius um, fillet in one step. And sometimes it'll cause some kind of confusion. So there's a trade-off. Yeah, it's one step, but when other people look at your model, they probably would expect one radius, one fillet. Okay, then the last step here is gonna be these holes. So this is also a pretty simple step. If you have if you're getting pretty comfortable with the previous steps, then this should be pretty easy. And we have a 1/4 inch hole, and both of the X and Y location of the center are FX. That means actually because I measured from the arc to the edge. So when I do this, I type in the measurement plus half of the radius. That gives us a center. And since we already have it, so we could just use these numbers. 45.5. So we can just draw the circles on this plane. And we got one circle here. Dimension is 0.25. And also to the top edge is 0.5. Maybe I use 0.85. To the right edge is 0.405. And so we'll practice another feature, or we'll just do one hole first. So extrude this hole, and we'll do through all, and flip the direction. Say okay. So you could do a mirror inside the sketch, or there's another option is you can, I believe you can do a mirror for that feature. Let's see. No, I guess Fusion doesn't have it. Or maybe in assembly. Well, I don't think we can do this here. That might be the difference between Fusion and SolidWorks. normally a lot of CAD you can not only you can mirror a sketch, you can also mirror a extrude, or we call it a feature. You can mirror a feature. You can mirror a fillet, or you can mirror pretty much anything. So since we have to draw the sketch here, we can go back to the sketch, and we'll mirror this to the other side of this axis. So I'm looking at this cube x, y, or it's not thinking about nothing too much. Just say I'm gonna draw a line. That's too much, and convert that to a construction. Then we'll do mirror the circle about this line. If I can pick that line. Okay, so I have that line selected in the object. So just select this, click mirror line, pick the line, say okay, finish. So we have to change this extrude as well to include this profile. Let's say okay. And that's pretty much the whole model. Then there's a little bit chamfer here, so instead of fillet, I think this is actually a chamfer. And so one thing, let's try it. Yeah. So a lot of software, I guess why it's free. Oh yeah, a lot of things. You can pick a plane, then it'll chamfer everything, all the edges of this plane. So I guess Fusion doesn't do that. So you have to pick every single one of the edges, and I'll just put a random number there. And you can also add some fillets here. So for fillets, you can actually pick a plane. It'll fillet everything around this profile, so all the edges. If I use this as example, not necessarily true in the model, so if I pick this plane and hit enter, you can see it does a fillet every edge on this plane, including this little thing. So that's pretty much the whole modeling process. And thank you.